It finally happened. Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Lucasfilm. This isn't clickbait. This actually was announced by Star Wars themselves. She did an exit interview with Deadline, which I'll be getting into later in the video because I read the entire article, so you don't have to. And I picked out some quotes I'm going to be dissecting because she said some interesting and ironic things. But first, who's going to be replacing her? Because of course, if she's going, someone's going to be replacing her. Well, they announced that on the creative, or not the creative, the executive financial side, it's Lynn Brennan, who's a lady that's essentially been doing what she's going to be doing now already. She's been working with Kathleen Kennedy on the financial side for all this for a while. She used to be with ILM, and then she came in and started helping Kathleen Kennedy with the financial side of things. And she's been doing that for a while. So it doesn't seem like anything's going to change there. And it's financial stuff. I don't really care. I'm sure that lady will do a good job. On the creative side, it's Dave Filoni. Now that doesn't excite me. Some people love Dave Filoni. I'm more on the hater side of Dave Filoni. I like the original Clone Wars for the most part. There's some missteps there. I'm on the minority side of I don't like Ahsoka, and I think she's harmed Star Wars more than helped. I know a lot of people disagree with me there, but that's my opinions on the character. But anyways, I enjoy original Clone Wars for the most part. And then we got the Disney Plus season. We got the 7th season on Disney Plus. That season was terrible. I hated that season. I thought it was really bad, and that was Dave Filoni having the more control than he's ever had on Clone Wars, and it was awful. And then he went and he did Mandalorian with Jon Favreau. Now that, again, big part of that's Favreau as well. It's not all Filoni, but those two collaborate on that. Mandalorian, the first 2 seasons for Disney Star Wars standards, is fine. It's okay. There's some good stuff. It's fine. Season 3 is a dumpster fire. It's terrible. It's awful. It's abysmal. Then he went and he did Ahsoka. Also, I'm not even mentioning Rebels, but that was, yeah, Rebels was, I didn't really even watch Rebels because I couldn't stand the art style. But the little bit I did watch of Rebels wasn't the biggest fan of, but I hate that art style so much. The end, I couldn't watch it. But then he went and did Ahsoka, which was just live action Rebels, because that's what Dave Filoni does. He likes taking his OCs, his creations, and pushing them to the forefront, giving them the limelight. That's why Ahsoka showed up and everything. That's why he's bringing back characters from Rebels, because characters he creates, he likes to be like, these are the best, and push them forward and put the spotlight on them. He also did Bad Batch, which pissed me off a lot because I'm a huge Republic Commando fan. I love Delta Squad. Republic Commando is my favorite video game of all time. I think it's probably the best stuff for me outside of the movies, Star Wars related. I love Republic Commando. I love all that. And he decided to be like, hey, what if we just copied the Republic Commandos? What if we copied Delta Squad and just made them something else, made them the Bad Batch? And that's what he did. And then to rub extra salt into the wound, he grabbed Scorch and completely ruined Scorch and threw him in there and had him get his ass beat by his OCs. So that was cool. Thanks, Filoni. So yeah, I'm not exactly on the same wavelength as Filoni. Not a big fan of him taking over creatively. So to me, Kathleen Kennedy leaving, something that I've been waiting for a while, that I was excited for, isn't really this joyous moment because it's not a step up, it's a lateral move for me. So I'm not too stoked about this. But maybe that's just me. Maybe other people are excited about this. I don't know. I want to hear from you in the comments, though, if you excited or not. I want to hear from you guys. But that being said, let's get into her exit interview and what she had to say. Because again, there were some interesting things. First off, why is she leaving? What's she going to do? Well, in the very beginning of the interview, she talks about how excited she is to make movies with AI. Not even joking. It's like at the very beginning of the interview. She compares AI coming out and being part of the creative process with movies to when she helped make Jurassic Park with Spielberg, or the first CG shot in Young Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, I'm really happy she's getting away from Star Wars, because Disney Star Wars, the vast majority of it already feels like AI slop. The Rise of Skywalker looks like it was made by AI. It really does. Like you could throw someone out there that has never really seen Star Wars or heard of it, show them The Rise of Skywalker, and be like, "Hey, this is the first movie ever made by AI," and they'd be like, "Wow, yeah, I believe you." They would have no reason to question you. That movie's so bad. So I'm glad that she's stepping away from Star Wars, because maybe at least Dave Filoni will be like, we need real human beings making our garbage instead of AI. That's a plus. When talking about the highs and lows of being at Lucasfilm during this time, she said, you know that you've got to find new characters and you have to expand the galaxy and you need to think about who the new audience is. That's what I feel that I did. And that's what I feel all the people that I've worked with over this last decade did. The highs includes bringing in a new audience. I think we did find new characters. We continue to find new characters. Who's the new audience? Who is it? Because if you look at the numbers, the audience is shrinking. The Force Awakens made like $2 billion, but any Star Wars movie coming out then was, no matter what, no matter how good or bad, was going to make money because it was the first Star Wars movie in a decade. Everyone wanted to see what was going to happen. Also, that trailer is magnificent. I don't like The Force Awakens. I think it's a bad movie. I didn't like it when I first saw it in theaters. You can check me. You can go watch my review from 2015 when it came out. I hated it then, and I hate it now because I know a lot of people liked it when it came out and then grew to not like it because of what happened later, because the groundwork it set. But I am original hater of The Force Awakens. That being said, I have to give kudos to the team that cut up that trailer because that trailer is magnificent. It's so good. It's a perfect trailer. How they cut it up, the music. Oh my goodness, what a great trailer. I remember I was a bagger at a grocery store at the time, and I remember the trailer coming out when I was working, and I immediately went to the bathroom to go watch it on my phone, and then I came out and talked to my friends at the store about it, like, oh my goodness, did you see that? Like, I was freaking out. It was so cool. So no matter what, that movie, no matter how good or bad, is going to make a lot of money. Now, The Last Jedi made, I believe, 1.3 billion, so considerably less than The Force Awakens because it had a lot of backlash. A lot of people didn't like it, and then also you have some of the fallout from the few people that were like me that didn't like The Force Awakens. And then The Rise of Skywalker, I believe, made just 1 billion. So again, less than The Last Jedi because you have the fallout from the first two movies and the fact that people are saying that, hey, this third one's not very good either. So that's not growing an audience or finding a new audience. That's a shrinking audience. That's getting rid of the existing audience and not replacing it with anyone, or replacing it with an even smaller audience. With Reylo fans, maybe, I guess, because that's who you're trying to appease in The Rise of Skywalker. So what new audience did you find, and why would you need to find a new audience? Because the thing about Star Wars is timeless. And I know that because there's constantly new Star Wars fans that love the originals. I have an anecdote about this because this year I was at a Dallas Fan Expo, and I remember it was so cool because I was walking by and there was this booth with all these Star Wars figures, and I saw a family there, the parents and a little kid, like a 10-year-old boy, and he was pointing at the Return of the Jedi Luke, and he's like, I want Luke, because his parents were going to get him an action figure, and he was pointing at that. Now, they had all Star Wars characters from all the movies, Disney movies, original trilogy, prequels. He wanted Return of the Jedi Luke. Let me tell you, this kid was not around in the 80s. He is a newer fan to the franchise. He wanted Return of the Jedi Luke. He's not some like begrudging, like, you know, how they try to paint Star Wars fans. Like, he's not some like 50-year-old incel that's like, I just want Luke Skywalker and I hate women or something like that. Like they try to paint Star Wars fans. And this was a 10-year-old kid that just thought Luke was sick and wanted to return to the Jedi Luke. That to me shows how timeless Star Wars is. Like, that shows that if you just make more good Star Wars stories that are true to the core of Star Wars, people will like it. That doesn't mean that you have to copy paste Star Wars like they did with The Force Awakens. That doesn't mean that you have to make everything the exact same, but just knowing what Star Wars is and the core of it and keeping that intact would grow the fan base, because you get these new fans in because Star Wars is timeless, but instead you don't get that. You shrunk the fan base because you spat in their face. Now, when talking about the lows of working on Star Wars, she said, you've got a very, very small percentage of the fan base that has enormous expectations, and basically they want to continue to see pretty much the same thing. Such a disingenuous statement from her. But if she actually believed what she's saying here, then the movies she greenlit make no sense. Like The Force Awakens, it is a copy and paste of A New Hope. It's just A New Hope again with worse characters. That's all it is. It's not anything new or different or growing. And then The Rise of Skywalker is again also a very much a copy paste of Return of the Jedi, but worse in every way. Like, why are you bringing back Emperor Palpatine? Why is the Emperor back? If we're trying to be new and we're not trying to give you the same thing, why is the Emperor back? Why are you essentially bringing the Death Star back again? Because you brought it back in The Force Awakens with Starkiller Base, and then in The Rise of Skywalker, you bring back a bunch of Death Stars attached to starships, attached to Star Destroyers. That's what you do. So this statement makes no sense. Her saying, there's this small sect of the fan base that wants everything to be the same. It's like, no, people complain about things being the same. That's the problem. You're being the same, but you're ruining things as well at the same time. That doesn't make any sense. That's even my biggest problem with The Last Jedi, is a lot of people try to act like The Last Jedi is this big radical movie that changes so many things. My problem with The Last Jedi is it introduces new concepts that are interesting, and then just to go straight back to status quo with everything. It's so annoying. Like with Leia, when Leia dies, I was initially in the theater like, oh, I can't believe they're doing it this way, because I thought Leia might die, everything that happened with Carrie Fisher and all that, but not in that way. In the beginning of the movie, it's like that was, and because you have Kylo there lining up, and then he can't do it, and then just some normal stormtroopers, some normal pilots do it. It's like, whoa, what a moment! And then she Mary Poppins her ass back into the ship, and is fine. It's like that. What? So you had an interesting concept there, an interesting idea, and you just go straight back to status quo. Actually, Leia's fine, and she can fly through space now. That's fine. Or the interesting idea of, hey, something that actually was kind of already set up with the Lucasfilms, which is the light side's not really the best, and the dark side's obviously not the best. Maybe there's something more in between that could be it. They were kind of setting that up with Luke and what they were doing with Rey. It's like, oh, that could be interesting, because we saw that obviously the dark side's not good. They're bad guys. And then we saw what happened with the Jedi Order in the prequels, to where maybe the light side's not entirely good. Maybe there is a little bit more of a meld. Maybe there is something in between that could be interesting there. And then at the end of the movie, nope, Rey gets all the Jedi, the good guy books, and it turns out the light side's the good, and everything's status quo, and there needs to be Jedi again. And it's like, oh, so that interesting concept is thrown out the window. And it does it several times throughout the movie. There's so many different concepts where it's just like, nope, we're introducing something interesting, and then we're going back to status quo. So that's why I hate whenever people bring up, you didn't like Star Wars because it changed things. I didn't like Star Wars because it couldn't commit to its changes. That's what I didn't like about The Last Jedi. Now, here's a couple quotes that I spliced together because I found them ironic. So I'm going to read these for you, and then I'll explain why they're ironic to me. You want to have people coming into Star Wars and wanting to tell stories and wanting to make movies and wanting to create television shows that you respect and care about. Jon Favreau is completely different than Tony Gilroy, and yet they're both incredibly talented storytellers. I found it thrilling to support each one of them and trying to tell the stories they wanted to tell. That's why I think I do well, and that's what I like to do and want to continue to do. I remember when I came into this job, the first thing Bob Iger said to me was, be bold. I've always liked that, because I think you have to be bold, and you have to be willing to take risks with people, with ideas. Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing. I think Ryan made one of the best Star Wars movies. He's a brilliant filmmaker, and he got spooked. This is the rough part. When people come into this space, I have every filmmaker and actor say to me, what's going to happen? They're a little scared. All right, so why is this ironic? She says she loves supporting storytellers, and that's what she thinks she does best, and she likes being bold, and that's what Bob Iger told her to do, but some creatives are scared because of like fan backlash. Or maybe they're scared because you don't actually support storytellers, and you don't actually want to be bold, because what happened with Solo: A Star Wars Story? What happened with Phil Lord and Chris Miller? What happened with those guys? Yeah, if you don't remember, let me rewind for you. Solo: A Star Wars Story was greenlit. They had Phil Lord and Chris Miller on it. The guys behind the Lego movie, the guys who wrote the Spider-Verse movies, the guys behind the Jump Street movies, all movies that people like. They directed a lot of them and wrote all of them. People like those movies. And then they were going to do Solo: A Star Wars Story. But they got kicked off, or they mutually parted ways for creative differences. So in other words, they had ideas that were too bold for Kathy, and she kicked them off. Kicked them to the curb. That's what I find so funny whenever people, especially her, talk about how bold and creative Rian Johnson is, and how he pushed the medium, and he did things that were too much for fans, that were too exciting, too creative, too different, not status quo. But apparently he colored inside the lines for Kathleen Kennedy, but Chris Miller and Phil Lord, those guys colored outside the lines, and then can't be having that. Can't be having that. That's a no-no. They got kicked off. And again, these are guys that people like a lot of what they've done. People, every time a new Spider-Verse movie comes out, 2 times that's happened, everyone raves about how amazing those movies are and how much they love them. But Star Wars movies, every time a new Star Wars movie comes out, you don't really get that reception. And so I think that's crazy that you have creative filmmakers there, these writers and directors, and you kick them off. You got to remember that Solo: A Star Wars Story is the only Star Wars movie to lose money, because she fired the original directors, and those guys also wrote it, and had to hire new people to come in and make the movie, to reshoot basically all of the movie. So it doubled the movie's budget, and it didn't make any money. And now let's get into more of that, because she does talk about Solo: A Star Wars Story in this. She talks about how that's her one regret, because they ask her, like, throughout all this, do you have any regrets? And she's like, no, I would have done everything the same. I have no regrets except with Solo. So let's get into her quote there, what she had to say. No, I don't really have any regrets. Well, maybe a bit of regret about Solo: A Star Wars Story. I brought Larry Kasdan in on, and we were so excited about that idea. And then when you're into something and you realize fundamentally, conceptually, you cannot replace Han Solo, at least right now. As wonderful as Alden Ehrenreich was, and he really was good and is a wonderful actor, we put him in an impossible situation. And once you're in it and once you're committed, you got to carry on. I think I have a bit of regret about that, but not about the movie making and filmmaking. I don't have regrets about that. I just think that conceptually we did it too soon. Too soon. The, the original Star Wars movies, the last one came out in the 80s. The last movie with Han Solo came out in the 80s. So what do you mean too soon? It has nothing to do with too soon. It's the fact that no one wanted a young Han Solo movie because we know what young Han Solo looks and sounds and acts like. And it's not Alden. Alden is a good actor. I like him, and that's the one thing I agree with Ron is it's not his fault. No one wanted a Solo movie. No one needed to know how he got the last name Solo. That the reason he got the last name was because he didn't have a last name, and so an Imperial officer just gave it to him. We didn't need to know how he got his blaster. We didn't need to know all this stuff. And it's so stupid that you do this. No one wanted this story. But then she talks about how she has no regrets about the filmmaking side of it, aka she has no regrets about firing the directors. She has no regrets about that. She's just like, people didn't like it because people wanted Harrison Ford. That is not, you still could have made a good movie. I was against Solo, the Star Wars story, because I didn't think it was a story that needed to be told, and we already know what young Han Solo looks and sounds and acts like, so I think it was kind of stupid. Because, when you have the prequels, it's like, we don't know what young Obi-Wan looks or sounds or acts like. We haven't seen that. We only saw him as an old man. So Ewan McGregor coming in, that's great. And also, he looks a lot like him, and he sounds a lot like him, and he acts a lot like him. So Alden is like half a foot shorter than Harrison Ford. He doesn't sound like him. He doesn't look like him. It's like, what are we doing here? And then on top of that, again, you get rid of the original creatives behind the movie, and you bring in other people, and you try to make this movie that doesn't work, that has no creativity to it, and just feels very bland. And like you're trying to give people the safe movie that is the same thing over and over again, which apparently she wanted to be very bold, but instead you gave us Star Wars, which is one of the most bland Star Wars. Like, I don't even think Solo is a horrible movie. It's just so meh. It's so mid. It's such a why does this movie exist type of movie. It's so safe and boring. It's not interesting at all. And the one good thing to come out of Disney Star Wars as far as movies and TV shows go is Rogue One and Andor. And I think the reason Andor is so good because Tony Gilroy's amazing, but also because I think Kathleen Kennedy just didn't care. I think the reason she gave him carte blanche to do whatever he wanted was because she's like, no one cares about Cassian Andor or these characters you're making up. This has nothing to do with the Skywalker saga. Who cares? Yeah, go do your little thing. I don't care. That's why she didn't meddle in that compared to Solo, which she meddled in. Or the Kenobi show, which if you don't know about that show had already had a script and was ready to go. But then Kathleen Kennedy read it last minute, didn't like it, and scrapped everything. So because she said it needed to be more hopeful and it was too dark. Those were the reports coming out like that. And I believe they were very credible reports. So that's why that movie looks like it had a $2 shoestring budget. When you watch it, it looks like a fan film. And that's because they had to scramble to be like, oh, we still got to shoot this, but they had to scramble to come up with a new script and shoot it real fast when they were just about ready to go with the original. So yeah, Kathleen Kennedy ruined a lot of things. But at the end of the day, Kathleen Kennedy's legacy is one of failure. She shrunk the fan base. She took a beloved cinematic franchise that every release was so anticipated that it was like a huge event, like nothing else you would see from any other franchise, from any other movie. And she took that and turned it into Disney Plus streaming slop. She ruined the cinematic nature of Star Wars. She ruined the legacy of Star Wars, along with help from others, but she was at the forefront of it, and that is sad. And I'm glad that she's going, and I'm not excited for the future of Star Wars, sadly, but I don't think Star Wars is too far from saving. I think if you memory hole this stuff and you move on to a new era, I think you can still do some good as long as you get the right creatives in there and you tell good stories, because people still want good Star Wars. We just saw that with the re-release of Revenge of the Sith last year and the Battlefront 2 servers exploding again and Andor coming out. You saw that people want good Star Wars, that people can get excited about again. It's just, you can't keep having these people that have no idea how to tell a good Star Wars story at the helm. And I don't think you need to retcon everything, because they're obviously not going to do that. I would love it if they did, but they're not, because partially it sets bad precedent, because what if they make another bad movie and then every time the fans are like, retcon that one's bad, retcon that, you get dangerous slippery slope territory. I do wish they would retcon it, but they're not going to, and I don't think you need to. You just got to memory hole it. You can't constantly be like, this takes place in the sequel trilogy era and remember Snoke and remember Rey, but you can't. You just gotta basically memory hole that and forget it exists and move on, and people will come. People will show up for good Star Wars. People want good Star Wars. I know, because I'm a Star Wars fan that wants good Star Wars. But anyways, that's all I had to say about this. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this? Are you excited about the new direction Star Wars heading? I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all later.
Hey, skinny boy, saucy boy, I be running to the bank. Yeah, you know I hit the gas in the whip full tank. Riding past the ocean while I'm listening to Frank.